How do you make learning fun? I'm going to share a $1 million lesson with you on how to make learning fun. And the reason it's a $1 million lesson, which you're not going to earn $1 million necessarily, but somebody did with this lesson. His name is Ken Jennings. He was the first person to win over $1 million in Jeopardy. And I heard him speak and got a chance to meet and talk with him. And he shared something really fascinating that I believe is at the absolute fundamental core of how to make learning fun in any context. So in addition to Ken Jennings' $1 million lesson, I'm also going to share a game that is really, really fun, repeatable in an online learning context, in an in-person learning context. You can also use the idea to gamify several other pieces of your content to make your learning fun. The only fluff that I like belongs on sandwiches and is marshmallowy. Let's get into it. Did you know that opossums have 13 nipples? So if you're still into this video, you're down for making fun in maybe some odd and surprising ways. And I would argue with you actually that in order to make learning fun, you have to be surprising, right? So Ken Jennings, the guy who won over $1 million on Jeopardy, is the one who shared the fact with me that opossums have 13 nipples. I can't remember if it actually helped him win a question or something, but I remember him sharing that when he learned that fact, it totally blew up and exploded his curiosities. We're talking about one of the people on the planet who has the largest brain library of random factoids. And so this guy loves learning way more than most people, even people who like learning. Like this guy really likes learning, like more than teachers, more than trainers, more than any educator I've ever met. This guy really likes learning. And somehow this fact that opossums have 13 nipples activated his curiosity. It might not activate your curiosity, but the tool and the idea that he shared in the lesson that I think is actually worth $1 million, maybe genuinely, because over the course of your life, if you continue learning, you will continue getting promoted, new opportunities. There actually is a monetary connection to curiosity, I would say. And by the way, that's a really compelling case to make if you're in an education space. It's a really compelling case to share with your students that the more curious you are, I would argue that it's also possible the more dollars you will earn. In fact, Jack Dorsey and his co-founder founded Square, that app that everybody swipes their credit card to like buy a sandwich from a food truck. They founded that company based on a question, based on the curiosity, which was, why can I not buy this piece of art from this artist with a credit card? It's right here, I have the money, I want to buy it, why can't I exchange this? And that curiosity led to them solving a problem. So curiosity is a phenomenal thing to activate. I think as educators, we know that deeply. We just don't know how to cultivate it necessarily all the time. And so when you think back to whatever your guttural reaction was when I said opossums have 13 nipples, I'm assuming even when I say that out loud, I'm gonna like stop saying that out loud because I don't even like saying that phrase or that fact out loud. And I think that that is part of the reason why it's so curiosity provoking, because it's so novel, the brain goes, what? Literally, like this big giant question mark goes off in our brain and something has to shift. We have to fill that curiosity gap. And in fact, the best way to create curiosity is to create a curiosity gap. Chip and Dan Heath talk about in one of my favorite books on the planet, Made to Stick, about the value, if you want to make somebody remember something, you want to make it really sticky, and in order to do that, you've got to create a curiosity gap. In fact, they've done a ton of really cool research, neuroscience research, on when they show people a bunch of images and photos, they ask people to remember those photos, and then they ask a different set of people to be curious about those photos and remember them. The group that's curious actually retains that information better than the group who isn't curious. And so if you want to make learning fun, tear open people's curiosity. Find something that really excites them. So the game that I mentioned at the beginning of this intro is called the Wikipedia game. If you haven't heard of it, Steven, have you heard of it? I have. Oh, you have really? Oh, cool. Okay, so this is good. The Wikipedia game is you give people two completely unrelated things. So let's just say opossums, just to bring back that bad memory, and plants. The game is for everybody, and this is great in an online context, the game is for everybody to get to, from the Wikipedia page for possums to the Wikipedia page for plants in the shortest amount of time possible without typing anything. So only clicking links and related links. And there's something really cool that happens, which is in order to get from opossums to plants, you might have to go through Genghis Khan and the Great Wall of China and all these other things, right, unrelated things. And so it's a really good way to just kind of explode people's curiosity, because the way to debrief that for me as an educator, at the end of that game, I'm gonna ask, and what page that you went through in the last 5 minutes were you most curious about? And that just gives you a little bit of insight. When you have that answer from all of your participants, all of your students, all of your employees, when you have that answer from everybody, you now know a window into their curiosity, and you can continue to cultivate and personalize their learning based on that idea of exploding their curiosity. If you want to take the idea of the Wikipedia game and gamify any piece of content, I've created a framework called FOGS, F-O-G-S. It stands for Framing, Objective, Guidelines, and not often needed, but good to keep in mind. S stands for Safety. Safety can also refer to physical safety if you're going to be doing something that actually people could trip, fall, etc. But more often than not, it refers to psychological safety, emotional safety, wanting learners to be not super hyper stressed or on the spot when they're learning. And so the way that you can take this framework and make learning fun is frame an idea. So framing is where you really give the intention for something. When you share an objective, like get from opossum to plants, it makes it a game. If you don't give an objective like that, then there is no game. Well, if you give an objective, maybe that's just an assignment. The guidelines piece makes it a game. So when I say you can't type anything, all of a sudden there's some restrictions, and those restrictions actually make learning a little bit more fun. In creativity and innovation research, it's pretty well established that restraints actually create and promote more creativity. And so the same is true, I think, when you're making learning fun, is if you add some guidelines in, it actually gamifies a little bit more. This was super fun hanging out with you. Below in the description, there's a billion different ways to make learning fun, more connecting, more engaging. I'm Chad. Have an awesome day.